Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're here with Lea Thompson, aka Coreskate, aka Girl Gone Crypto. You got a lot of different names, so I'm actually curious, how did you come up with the Coreskate and then Girl Gone Crypto, and then you also do a show with your sister too. So and you do Steem onboarding, so you've got like just a ton of different things going on. So if you just want to kind of work through some of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely not bored ever. But so I guess it kind of starts with me joining Steem a few years ago, which truly was kind of my on-ramp to the greater crypto world in general. Like I'd heard of Bitcoin and crypto. I had friends that were miners, but it didn't really sink in as something I might want to look into until I ran across Steem back in kind of like early mid 2017. And I had never really made content before, but I was like, well, this could be kind of fun. I'll give it a try. And, it's awesome you have that ukulele in your background there because that was one of the first
Yeah,
things I did was make a ukulele video. and
that's awesome.
and it was just really well received. And I started posting more and kind of getting more involved. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Just being able to post content and like make money. What is this? Right. It was like this whole
Yeah.
new world. And what was fun though is that it kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of crypto, right? Because then I had all these questions about, well, where does this money really come from? And why is it worth anything? And now what do I do with it? What is holding versus selling? How, if I wanted to turn it into fiat, like what is this thing called an exchange and how does that work? And, just all of the questions you start asking when you actually have crypto, to contend with.
Yeah.
And so really that's been a huge part of my life. It'll be my 3-year Steem anniversary this summer. So, yeah, crazy to think about. It's been such a big part of my life for so long. But, you mentioned Girl Gone Crypto. And so that's been a more recent development. So in the last 6 months, I started Girl Gone Crypto. And I think what I decided is that I was having a lot of fun making content on Steem, but I didn't really have a strong focus on what I was doing. Like I was doing ukulele videos and I was doing like, here's a recipe I made and it was all over the board. And I realized that I really did enjoy making video content and I was like, this would be fun just to like pick a niche and kind of dive a little deeper on that. And so crypto seemed like a really kind of obvious choice to do that with because I was already getting requests to go speak at crypto conferences. We actually met at one of those crypto conferences, in Toronto. Yeah. And so it just seemed like a natural progression to kind of start making more crypto related content. So that's been kind of the last 6 months of my life doing Girl Gone Crypto. Obviously I'm still very, very active in the Steem community and on other decentralized social sites, but now also creating content on YouTube and some of those other places as well.
Awesome. And then you also have your show with your sister. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, so we've been doing that for about a year and a half. And that's honestly just kind of like my fun side project, if you will. Like we've never tried to like get sponsors or do anything or make it all like official. We're just having fun and hanging out on Steem. So it's called the Steem Sister Show. For those of you who haven't run across it. And so like for us, it's really fun. Like we just get together and we drink wine and we talk about life. And for some reason, people seem to enjoy it. So it's just, we do it for us just as much as we do it for people watching it. Cause it's just, I actually think it's really brought us closer together. Like we've talked about so many things now that we just never would have really talked about if we didn't have a show where every week we're like trying to come up with new topics and kind of explore new areas. And so, yeah, it's just been fun to have an excuse to get together every week. And like I said, hang out, drink wine, and just kind of talk about life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, my story's sort of similar. Like I just started to get into Steem when I was getting into the crypto universe, so to speak. And unfortunately, I invested originally just before the big crash.
Oh, no.
But afterwards, I was kind of like, okay, well, like maybe I'm not good at investing. Maybe like what else is there? So, and then I sort of stumbled upon Steem, and it was like, okay, well, maybe I could just try to earn, from, sharing different things and doing tutorials. And I kind of took the educational approach. So I was like doing tutorials on Steem because I also felt there wasn't a lot of like material for people to like learn about Steam, like because it was kind of like you drop in and just kind of like have to figure it out and kind of find your way. So I was trying to like bridge that gap a little bit. And then I started doing interviews and a bunch of different things. And I know you're doing a lot of interviews now too. I just saw you did one with Colin from Nexus, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. And so like, the interview approach has been really interesting, just learning about different projects and what's going on in the space. And I mean, it's been really fun. And I mean, Steam has just been such a crazy ecosystem of all this awesome stuff going on. And I think I'm excited to see where it's going to go this year. And you are obviously both praying and hoping that it's going to go way up after the Bitcoin halving. So what are your thoughts on that actually? Like, where do you think Steam is going to go? Like, do you think it's going to kind of catch the coattails of Bitcoin? Do you think Bitcoin is going to go up? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm not a financial professional by any means, but here are my thoughts on things. So I think that when an altcoin goes up in price, there's a couple of different things that might influence that, right? So one of them would be development and usage of the chain, right? And so if we have a lot of these dApps that are being developed on Steam actually starting to reach a level of adoption and get a large user base, then that helps to promote the value of the coin. And so there are definitely some great projects being built on Steam right now that I feel excited about. Splinterland's being kind of like, I'd say, the clear winner right now in terms of being a game that's actually getting a lot of attention in not just the blockchain space, but it seems like it's actually starting to gain some traction and get attention in the gaming world as well, which is really cool. But also, like you mentioned, kind of the coattails. I think that sometimes price can be influenced simply just by the market around it, right? And so, like you've mentioned, we have the Bitcoin halving coming up, which traditionally has started and signaled a bull run. And oftentimes when Bitcoin is running, we'll find an alt season somewhere in there. Generally not like right away, but, like when Bitcoin's going up, we're going to hopefully see a lot of these altcoins kind of rise with the tide as well. And so I think that Steam does kind of have both of those things going forward in terms of development and the fact that it has historical data to have reached, different highs, like in 2017, getting up as high as $8. That can hopefully help the price of the coin. But I mean, it really is all just speculation, right? So it's hard to say for sure, but I definitely feel hopeful that Steam will kind of be included in that next big alt season that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of your favorite like Steam dApps that you use regularly or that you're excited about that are kind of like building right now, or like just what do you kind of use on a day-to-day, or what are you excited about?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, being excited about. It's not really something I use that much because I'm not much of a gamer. But in terms of dApps that I actually use regularly, I use DTube quite a bit. I was actually one of the first people to ever load a video to DTube, so I feel proud about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I've used DTube for a long time, and they continue to develop the platform and do different cool things there. As a video content creator, right, I'm always kind of looking at different decentralized video sharing platforms, and so I just uploaded to ThreeSpeak the other day for the first time. I saw that you also interviewed Dan, the founder of ThreeSpeak, which is awesome. And that was a great experience. It was really easy to use. It was a really quick upload process. I really like the platform. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go like all ThreeSpeak or all DTube, or if I'll, kind of go back and forth and try different things. But really was very impressed with ThreeSpeak. But so that's for video content. But in terms of kind of like shorter form content on Steam, other dApps that I like to use is Apix, just for kind of photos. That's like almost like the Instagram, version, a Steam Instagram. And so that's been really fun to use that, especially because a lot of the content that I make is I really like doing kind of short 1-ish minute video clips. So like I'll take clips from my interviews and different things to share on Twitter and different places like that. And there's not very many places where you can just upload a short video on Steam, but you can upload a 60-second video on Apix. So that's I use them a lot for the video functionality, actually.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I haven't actually dabbled a lot in Apex. I definitely need to check that out more. I originally used Steep Shot, but then
Mm-hmm.
it kind of like it's not really super like supported anymore.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a good attempt at Instagram. I assume it's probably super similar to what Apex is now. Um, but yeah, I used Steep Shot for a while. Now I've always used DTube, kind of just like that's just been my go-to for video. Um, and I'm trying to think of anything else that I've used on Steam. I mean,
Mm,
Fundition is pretty cool for
yeah.
like work, like funding charities and doing different stuff like that. I think that's really awesome how they sort of like enable it, like make it really easy, and they have like leaderboards and stuff, so people are more like incentivized to donate. And then Steam Engine, everything going on with that is really interesting to see all the development and how people are taking advantage of that. Um, like, what do you think of like the non-fungible tokens that are coming out on Steam, like with like Steam
Mm.
monsters and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know that I have a really strong opinion on it. I think that I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I feel really bullish that those coins are going to go up in any kind of crazy value. But I do think that there is value in community, which is what those tokens kind of represent. And so, like, being able to reward someone in a token, even if you're not like 100%, like that it's going to go to the moon. I mean, it might, but I think that just being able to kind of strengthen a community with tokens like that is actually really powerful and something that can get people excited. I don't know. I think it's funny. Like, I think that people, they love free stuff. Like, I mean, go to Costco and see the people just standing there waiting for like a free bite of, I don't know, cheese, right? And
Yeah.
so definitely not one of those people. But like I just think that in general, people, even if it's not worth a whole lot, there's like an excitement and an energy that they get from being part of something like that. So I actually think that's really cool what they're doing at Steam Engine and giving these communities an ability to kind of tokenize and create just a little bit more like emphasis within their own community and their own platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also said that you're on Float and Sawme as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so what's your take on those platforms? They're fairly like new to the space. Steam's kind of like the OG. So like what do you think about them, and then maybe also in comparison to like what Steam is about?
Yeah, good question. So they're fairly different. Sumi or Somi, I'm never sure how to say it.
I think it's So Me. Like I
Somi,
interviewed
okay.
Christopher Kramer, and I'm pretty sure he said So Me, but I think I was saying it wrong, and then now I think I'm saying it right. But I don't know. Either way, SOME.
Right. So, Somi is fairly similar to Steam in a lot of ways. It was an offshoot or a fork of Steam, I believe, their
Yeah.
blockchain. And so, um, and so onboarding and learning how to use that platform was fairly easy and intuitive because there were a lot of similarities between that and Steam. So in terms of, like upvotes and staking and different things like that, once you've learned Steam, I think it would be pretty easy to transition to using that as well. I think what I like about using that platform is that it it is a little bit more short content friendly. So it's not something where you're uploading, big long interviews, or you can't even upload short videos. Like, it's really more of that kind of like Twitter, Instagram kind
Yeah.
of content, and I make a lot of content like that. And so it's fun to be able to share that with that community. And I think that's what's great about a lot of these decentralized and alternative platforms is it's the community that's fun, because the people, they might not be like a ton of people on those platforms, but the people that are there are like really loyal to them, really excited. And so just getting to kind of join in and be like part of that family, if you will, I think is pretty cool. And so I think that's why I like using a lot of these decentralized sites. And because, we just saw recently with the crypto purge on YouTube and different things like that, like with centralized sites, you really don't own your content and your information, and it could just get taken down. And so I
Mhm.
think that content creators that get started using these alternative sites earlier on in the process, it's just they're just setting themselves up for success, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with crypto in the future and what kind of limitations or shadow banning or censorship or different issues we'll continue to run into. And so I think that supporting a lot of these alternative platforms is just a really smart move. But in terms of Float, so Float is pretty different than Steem and Somi because it's not blockchain based like those other two are. So with those two, you can be earning crypto for your content through posting, through people voting for your content that have the coin staked. But on Float, it's a little bit of a different platform. They almost went like a little bit more like kind of like Patreon style, and so you can. Yeah. Set things up where people can support you. They're also going to have ads where content creators get 100% of the ad revenue, which is really cool. And so I think what I like about Float is they do a really good job of making it feel like Patreon meets Instagram meets Reddit meets Twitter meets all like it. You can do short videos, you can do, you can do pictures, you can do all these different things, encrypted messaging. Like they've kind of brought all these little pieces together onto one site. And so I think that's really promising. And also, I mentioned earlier about communities and how it's exciting to be part of a community. They have a really strong, loyal following and community of people that love Float and love being on Float. So I just really enjoy kind of being part of that excitement,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I also interviewed Kingsley Edwards from Float. And I thought it was really cool, like their vision and everything that they're into. And they also have live streaming, which is pretty cool because there's not a lot of live streaming blockchain sort of services or capabilities right now. I know DLive, but I don't like DLive. Like if you look into what it's all about, I would just say stay away. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, like I think Float is really, really cool with what they offer. And it's very, very new, but I think they're doing a really good job, and they really killed it with the UI. Like I think it's really, really great, and yeah, Somi is really awesome too. And it's like it also has that integration with Steem, and I like how it's like you can kind of use it with Steem, where it's like if you put out a video on Steem and then you could share it on Somi or on Float, and they kind of work together rather than like competing with each other. And I think that's really, really important for all of the apps and dApps in the ecosystem of blockchain, where it doesn't really feel like they're competing against each other. It's really like they're trying to bridge the gap between regular platforms to decentralized and privacy focused and being able to monetize your content. So I think that's really, really awesome what they're all doing. And it feels much more collaborative than competitive, which is what it feels like more so on the old legacy platforms.
No, that's a great point. And I think you're right that especially I've seen that shift kind of happen more in this bear market too, where I think maybe back in 2017, things felt a little more competitive. Like, are you doing that? I think you're right. Like being in this bear market has kind of forced everyone to be like, hey, this is kind of a small space. And so let's kind of stick together. And I think the projects that are really showing promise have kind of like floated to the surface, and the ones that maybe haven't, had enough development or didn't have enough kind of like funding or business model behind what they're doing have kind of dropped off. Like you mentioned Steep Shot earlier, right? Like I used to use Steep Shot as well, and they haven't really, like the platform I think is still there. Like you could still use it, but like you said, it doesn't really have a lot of support behind it. Same with Partico. I used to use Partico all the time as just a really nice little app on my phone for Steem, but the developers haven't really done anything in a while. And so it's, I think that, we talked earlier about different Steamed apps that show promise. And I think that looking at the ones that are really active with development and with just kind of keeping things up and improving their platforms are the ones that I want to invest time in. Another one that I didn't mention earlier, but I think they do a really great job is Steam Peak. I don't know if you've ever used
Okay, yeah.
But what's cool about it, because there's different dApps that are kind of for different purposes, but then there's also various kind of alternatives to steemit.com as well, right? So you've got busy.org, you've got eSteam, you've got Steam Peak. Partico was, is one of those in that kind of category as well. And they all have slightly different things going for them. But what's cool about Steampeak is they give you a lot more data and analytics than steemit.com. And so you can just see a lot more information. And, the guys behind it, I think, are kind of all like, like data and numbers guys. So for them, they were like not happy with what they were seeing on Steemit. So they built Steampeak. And so I think just kind of like playing around with some of the different user interfaces for the Steem blockchain and seeing what works for you, what fits. We've talked about community a few times, and I think that each one of them kind of have their own little sub community in the Steem world where the people that like using that really like using it, and they get excited when they see other people trying it out as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important to explore the different UIs because especially when people start on Steemit and they're trying to like write in Markdown or like it's very confusing. Whereas if they go on to something like Busy or Steampeak, it's like, oh, okay, wow, this is much more user friendly. And to your point about analytics, I think that is missing for the majority of blockchain platforms right now. So
Absolutely.
like analytics is so key, especially for like trying to convince bigger influencers to come on the platform because they want to be able to track all of that. So like super important for them to do that. So yeah, I forgot to ask earlier, and you brought up Partico. I was going to say, like, what kind of mobile solutions do you rely on for Steem? So like, what do you use now? I still use Partico, but because I still feel like it's got the best UI on mobile. I also have tried eSteem, but it's a little more challenging to use on mobile. Do you still use either of those, or do you just use your browser, or what's that like for you?
Yeah, good question. So I actually do use my browser a decent amount, to be honest, but I still use Partico. So one thing that I like about Partico is that it's kind of simplified the whole UI. And so it does feel more like kind of an app, like an Instagram, like something you are used to scrolling. I think eSteem is good if you want kind of the full functionality. It's kind of like the desktop versus the mobile, right? So like even their mobile version has a lot of those kind of desktop type of features, which is great if you want to have like the full meal deal directly on your phone. But if you're just looking to kind of scroll or do a quick post or do something, I think that Partico is still probably the smoothest and kind of easiest to use UI. I do really like Apix. They've got their branding, their app. It's really smooth. It's actually really good, but you only see the content that was posted to Apix, so it's not a good like full on Steem experience in that way.
Yeah, and I guess it's pretty typical for a lot of the dApps to kind of just be their own thing. For me, the biggest thing for Partico is just like having notifications on my phone. And even if I don't use Partico, I like to just have the notifications, and then I might just jump on my computer and use Steemit or whatever it happens to be. I just love to have those notifications because before there was all these like weird solutions where you'd like subscribe to like a Discord bot or like whatever it was, right? Like there was all these like weird solutions that were like all this work to do, and now it's just like it's much more integrated and easy to do. So yeah, I definitely need to check out Apix and like try that out more because yeah, like what's the community like there? Like, is there a big community? Like because I know it was in, or it might be still in beta. You might have to educate me a little on Apix because I'm pretty sure it recently launched, right?
I need to double check because I'm still using the beta test app. So I need to check and see if it is actually fully available in the App Store. But yeah, I just downloaded Test Flight and then, got the beta link from them. So I'd have to double check on that. I think you might be right that they went live, but the beta app is still working, so I've been using it. But yeah, I'd say that their community, I don't know that I would say it's like really big. Like not like I don't think that there's any, communities that are huge right now in this kind of like bottom of the barrel bear market. But what I do like about Apix that I've noticed is that there's certain people that, I've known on Steem for years, right? Like we've seen each other around and they are pretty much only using Apix. And so when I post on there, like all of a sudden these people I haven't talked to in a while are like, oh, hey, what's up? And they're commenting because they're seeing it in their feed. So I definitely think that that they've got a pretty good community of people that really are looking at the Apix app and really kind of responding to and commenting on posts that they see in there. So I think it's worth checking out. I enjoy using it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for DTube, I still think they haven't fully launched their own blockchain. But when they do, I think that'll be really interesting to see how that kind of adds on to, like, they've been in testing for a long time now. And I originally did an interview with Hyman Danger, the
Yeah.
founder and creator, when they originally switched it and like came out with their own test net. So that was really cool because I was like one of the first people to be able to like check out the demo of the new one before it actually like launched. But what do you think of the new DTube and where it's headed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that they've done a good job with the kind of user experience and the upload process. I think that it runs really smoothly. One thing that I think was actually really smart of them, because IPFS is great in some ways because it is this kind of fully decentralized option, but it also presents certain kind of user issues, right? Where it takes a long time to upload and it can be kind of buggy sometimes. And
Mhm.
that's not DTube's fault, really. That's more of an IPFS issue. And so I think it was really smart when they started allowing people to upload from a YouTube video if they prefer. I just think that maybe they can make it a little bit clearer that, hey, this doesn't mean that your video is stored in a decentralized way, because
Yeah.
it's really just almost like embedding a YouTube video, but the video is fully on YouTube, right? And so I
Mhm.
think that some people maybe are a little bit, they don't quite understand that distinction. So I think that that might be good. But for people that are wanting to engage with the DTube community, the Steem community, and not go through the whole big IPFS upload process, like I think that that's actually a great feature. Or,
Mhm.
for people that maybe they upload like cooking videos or dance videos or things where they're not really worried about censorship and things like that. And I think it's great that they have both, right? So if you are like, hey, I
Mhm.
really want this stored in a decentralized way, you can still use the old upload process. And in terms of them kind of like doing their own blockchain, like you, I'm kind of curious to see how that all works out, how that pans. I think that DTube has some pretty strong name recognition within the crypto community, and so I think that they have a lot going for them in that way, because they were one of the pioneers for having a decentralized video platform. And so a lot of people have heard of and know DTube, right? So I think that that's going to be beneficial for them. I'm just glad that they're still integrating with the Steem blockchain, in the sense that you can still kind of cross post to Steem. Because if they didn't, then I don't know that I would use it as much. I mean, I might, but really, I'm looking for a way to stay connected with my Steem family, and DTube has been kind of the portal for me to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate. And yeah, like when he said that they were coming up with their own blockchain, I got a little concerned because that's kind of what DLive originally did, right? When they left and then they started Lino blockchain, and then now they're getting rid of Lino blockchain and they're going to Tron. Regardless, I mean, I hope Tron fixes it, but who
Mhm.
knows? They might leave Tron, go somewhere else, and do a million migrations. But yeah, no, I really like what DTube is doing, and and I think when I originally interviewed him, he said they had plans for some time in the future where you could upload both to IFPS and YouTube, so that if there was an issue, you could watch either or in like the same video, where you would just say like YouTube or DTube and you could just like swap between the two. And I was like,
Mm,
that would be really, really good, because then if there was an issue, they could just do the YouTube. And if there wasn't, then they could just watch it natively on DTube, and then it's still stored on IFPS. And I think once
mm,
we see that change, I think that'll be really, really huge. And I think DTube, yeah, has just been like a pioneer in this space. And I think a lot of people in crypto know DTube, and it was really just, as far as I know, like the first to ever have any kind of decentralized video. The only other big one in the space that I know of today is Library
mm.
LBRY, and they're doing really well, especially after the crypto purge. There was a ton of people going to Library, and their coin actually went up a bunch in value. But yeah,
I
no,
saw
there,
that.
that's a really good, yeah, that's a really good place to check out as well. I mean, I'm still, like DTube is still like my go-to, but I upload to a ridiculous amount of different platforms. I probably post on like 15 different platforms every day, which is just like so time consuming. I wish there was a way to just consolidate all of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I try to just spread out across everything, because I do a lot of like reviews of all the different like blockchain
Yeah.
platforms. So I like to like test what I think is kind of the best of the best, and I kind of stick it out, and I've been doing that for a while now. Do you have any other platforms that you're like keen on trying out, or that you might have checked out a little bit? Because
Mhm.
there's some like Bitcoin Cash applications.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of Ethereum ones like Uptrend, Mines. Like, have you tried out any of those platforms?
I haven't, but I've thought about it and I've kind of looked into it. So, library is definitely one that it's on my kind of hit list. So is, BitTube. I've heard a lot of people mention that they use that one. Mines, like you mentioned, it's just there's so many of them, right? And so, and like you mentioned, it's really time consuming. And there are ways to, on more centralized platforms, there's tools that can help you kind of like have content shoot out to different places, and you can schedule it and do different things. But there's not really anything like that I'm aware of for these decentralized sites. So it is very like manual to go through and share on each one and upload to each one and things like that. So I guess like I'm kind of more the mindset of like folding in kind of one at a time, right? And so like I've obviously been using Steem forever, but SoMe and Float are ones I've been using for a few months, and I feel like I like doing it that way because you get to know the community, you get to know the social norms, the trends. Because, I just mentioned content schedulers, but I don't want to just mass shoot out the exact same thing to everything, because some,
Hmm.
platforms are going to be more open to various like different things. Like just really understanding the social norms on those platforms is really key, I think, to becoming part of that community and to getting to know them, and making sure I have time to still respond to everyone and doing all those things, right? And so once I kind of get another platform under my belt, I'm like, all right, I feel like I got the like mind space. I'm gonna go pick another one. So yeah, I definitely eventually want to be posting on all of them, I think, because I do want to support them. I think that the work that they're doing to create these alternative platforms is really important. And I think that it's really valuable. So the more that we as crypto content creators can help support them by posting our content there, engaging with their community, I think that it's a really good thing.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And yeah, I mean, the cool thing about BitTube and Library is you can sync them up with your YouTube, and then it'll just automatically post. If you're posting to YouTube,
Mm.
and it won't just be an embed. It'll actually like download it and actually post it on that platform. It'll exist on that platform. So that's also really good, even just as like a backup for people who are worried about maybe eventually having censorship issues. Just syncing with BitTube and Library, you wouldn't even have to check it. I mean, obviously, like it's good to obviously interact with the community and actually be there. But in terms of like being able to have that backup and also not having the issue of all the manual work that goes into using all these platforms, really, really recommend doing that.
Mm.
Yeah, in terms of like decentralized video platforms, I would say I use DTube, Library, BitTube. I upload to Mines because Mines now has like 1 hour capability for upload, so like that's actually like really, really good.
Oh,
um
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was very recent that they now can do like long form videos, so that's pretty big for Mines. The only downside with Mines is not that it's so important, but you can't really like earn money with Mines tokens because they're a
Mhm.
utility token, so you can't really like
Right.
sell it. It's just for like boosting. You can boost your content with Mines tokens. I mean, people will buy it from other people within the platform, but there's no like actual way to like official way to sell it or exchange or anything
Mm.
like that. So that might be, like a big drawback for some people when they are thinking about using Mines. But yeah, all the platforms kind of have their own unique niches and different things that they've got going for them. So I think it's really
Mhm.
cool to explore all of them and get an idea. And like I said, I do reviews of all of them and like a big comprehensive review because I know no one else has the time to do the kind of stuff that I do all day. So it kind of just like makes it easier for everyone. And like if I see one, as like a scammy place or something like that, like I'll go through that process instead of a bunch of people having to deal with that, and then just kind of make it easier for everyone. So yeah, I would say just like for people who are watching, like check out some of the platforms that are out there. If you want to look at my reviews, like I cover all this kind of stuff. And yeah, there's tons of cool stuff out there. So I think it's really important that we patronize all these really cool like platforms and like give our
Mhm.
feedback and just kind of contribute to big collaborative ecosystem of dApps.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And another one that's popping up finally in beta here in a few weeks is Voice. Their beta launches on
Oh yeah, yeah.
Valentine's Day. So that'll be interesting to kind of check out as well. I'm excited to see what they've been building because they've been working on that for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, everyone's been waiting on that for a long, long time. I'm just the only concern for me is that it was originally going to come out on EOS, but because they're so like congested, now it's
Mhm.
coming out on a private chain. And it says they eventually want to use EOS, but I'm just like wondering how that's going to
Mhm.
play out because I used Tribe for a really long time, like
Okay. Yeah.
TRYBE, and you can't like withdraw your tribe or
Mhm.
power up or really do anything right now unless you have a crazy amount of EOS stakes. So that's like a huge like roadblock. So I'm just hoping that doesn't become like an issue for voice. So I'm fingers crossed that it's gonna do really well and it's gonna be awesome. And I wish them all the best. I just have those kind of concerns in the back of my mind with everything going on with EOS. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting, like you said, and I'm sure you'll make a great review video talking all about it on your channel. So I'll probably learn a lot from that just by watching your video. But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting just to kind of see what they end up doing. I mean, just the fact that they've had so much funding and they've had so much time and so many developers
Yeah.
working on it, like I feel like it has to be pretty decent, but that is not necessarily true. And like you said, with all of the EOS congestion that's been happening and that kind of altering their roadmap, we'll see, right? And that's kind of like I think with any of these decentralized and alternative platforms, right? Like we want to help support them, but there might be some that kind of rise to the surface as becoming more popular than others. And that's another reason why I think that being part of those communities early on is a good thing, right? Because you never really know exactly which ones are going to end up being the ones that kind of blow up it, right? And so being part of them all and helping to support them all and helping them all to hopefully, have a chance to grow, I think is really cool.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. It's like you never know which one is going to be MySpace and which one is going to
Yeah.
be the Facebook, right? So it's like it's and my approach has just been use all of them as much as I possibly can, but I don't expect everyone else to be able to have the time to do that because that's basically all I do. Um, so yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to cover? I feel like we've been going for almost 40 minutes now, so I feel like this has been really solid, and we've gone through like a lot of awesome stuff. Is there anything else that maybe you wanted to touch on, or you are feeling like this is kind of like winding down?
No, I think that everything we've talked about has been great. I would just say that if anyone's been kind of like on the fence about joining some of these decentralized sites, just jump in. Like the learning curve, is in some of these platforms can take a little while, but there's lots of great tutorials out there, like the videos that you'll see on Scott's channel, to go and help you out. And being part of the communities is really fun. So if you have, like I said, been on the fence about joining them, I think that you should just give it a try because it's really cool to be part of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also do you're the co-founder of Steem Onboarding. Do you want to talk about that a bit? Because I guess that's kind of relevant for people who might want to join Steem.
Yeah, no, great question. So, steamonboarding.com is a project that was founded by myself and another kind of prominent Steemian that you might know at a Nomad Soul. His name's
Yeah.
Eric. And so, similar to what you had mentioned earlier about seeing that there wasn't a lot of really helpful kind of educational information to help people get adjusted to learning about Steem. We saw that same issue because there were videos people had made, but maybe they made them a year ago and they're like way far down on someone's Steem feed. And like, what are you going to say? Go to this person's page and scroll for 5 minutes to find a video? Like, no, like you're not going to do that, right? And so we wanted to have them almost in like modules where it was on a website and it was in sequential order and someone could go and start at the top and just kind of go through the process and really have a good portal for learning all in one place. And since Steem is such an international community, we really wanted to make it approachable and available to lots of different people. So the site currently is available in 10 languages, and
Wow.
there's plans to kind of expand that to even more languages. And actually, Steem Onboarding just got funding through the SPS proposal system. And so we're moving into phase 2 of making the next module of videos. And so I have to say, building Steem onboarding was blood, sweat, and tears, and like almost a full-time job for me for a while. You know, organizing with all of the translating team, the video production team around the world. I was doing all of the video editing for all 10 languages, just like doing it all, right? And
Wow.
so it was really crazy. So in this next phase, I've decided to still continue to be the kind of the video person for the English language. So I did all the English videos. So I'll still continue doing that. But in terms of the actual like operational side of things, I moved into more of an advisor role. So I'm still going to be helping to move the project forward, but I'll be doing less of the kind of project management and operational management stuff that I was doing for the project before. But yeah, very excited about it. I think it's a great product that we've built, and I think that it's just going to continue to grow and improve now that the project has received some funding and we're able to kind of continue growing and move to the next step.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's a really good point, actually. My Steam tutorials are probably so far down the list. I should probably make like a playlist or
Oh
something on
yeah.
YouTube, or I got to do something like that. I mean, obviously, Steam onboarding is where everyone should be going. But you know, I'll make my little contribution as well by probably redoing some tutorials or something like that. That's probably a good idea. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot, so I think this is a good point to probably end it off. And again, thank you so much for jumping on. I think this was a really good way to like look at all the dApps that are kind of out there and get a good feel for what's going on and what's happening in the Steam ecosystem. And for people who didn't know much about you or my stuff, like to kind of get an inside view of what's going on with what we create and how we're involved in the Steam space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scott. It's been really fun to chat with you. And anytime I can talk Steam with someone, I am there for that party because it's been, we've both been on Steam for a long time. So it's fun, like you said, just to, really dig into some of the more details of kind of the Steam ecosystem and all the different dApps and things. So thanks so much for having me on. This has really been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe after Steam goes way up after the Bitcoin halving, we can come back and do like a recap and see what's happened since then.
Oh, I would love that. We should.
Awesome. All right. Until then, everyone, make sure you go and follow her on Steam, Skate, as well as Steam Sister Show, and outside of that, you've got Girl Gone Crypto. She's got a lot of different things going on, so you could probably find a lot of that. It's all listed on her Steam bio to make life easy. So make sure to follow her and check out all of her stuff. And then all of my stuff is just under Scott C Business. And again, thank you so much for doing this, and have an awesome Thursday.
You too. Thanks so much, Scott.
All right. Cheers.